Well, good day, everyone. So much. I was quite surprised when I turned on brought everything up and there was already just a truckload full of questions already sitting in the queue. Before I go into them, welcome to Satsang. Welcome to the exploration of your true being, which ultimately is the answer to all of life's questions. Nothing can eliminate the ups and downs and difficulties of life from anyone's experience. It is those ups and downs, the challenges, the victories and the defeats, the successes and failures, that is what shows us the nature of the impermanent and how important it is to let go of our attachment to to success, to material pleasures and happiness. Let go of our aversions to the material pains and failures, and discover, and in that letting go, we naturally turn our attention open-heartedly, looking for a happiness or a contentment that is not emotional, that doesn't betray you, that isn't fluctuating. And we all intuitively, instinctively know that there is such a contentment, there is such a peace. We've all been educated to look for it in conditions, doing our best to try to create desirable conditions, the conditions of which we have all been enculturated to believe are happiness, to pursue those conditions. And if we do manage to attain them, to try to hold on to them. And the promise is that this is the best you get out of life. that you manage to eke out a bit of pleasure and happiness in the midst of the sea of misery. Sigmund Freud put it very beautifully. He said psychoanalysis was allowing somebody to alleviating somebody from the pain of intense suffering, acute suffering, and simply be in the normal human misery. That was his idea of the great accomplishment, right? To just live your ordinary, miserable human life. We all intuitively reject that. We all know in our hearts that there is a place, a space, an energy, a dimension that is at peace. The problem is that we have been all been educated to seek it in conditions which are inherently transient. We are literally trying to freeze the wave as it's coming into shore, which is utterly impossible. We seek the eternal. I saw some kind of semi-scientific, semi-spiritual teacher talking about the possibility of immortality. He was talking about the immortality of the body. Can we make the body immortal? Looking at the fact that it's constantly replenishing itself. And I just thought to myself, why? Why are we seeking to try to make the impermanent permanent? Why are we not discovering the immortality that you are? Discovering the consciousness that is immortal, that was never born and is never going to die, that doesn't require a body at all, or can have as many and as different bodies as it likes. The embodiment not being the reality, The appearance of something is not the existence of something. Buddha used to use examples of the clouds and, seeing flowers or a face in the clouds, or, people who see Jesus on the, their toast, the way it toasted, right? They put the butter on and they're seeing Jesus, never having taken a Rorschach test, right? That it's pure projection. Buddha also used the example of a ring of fire. If you've ever seen people twirling batons with fire on the end, it's actually just two flames, but it spins so fast it looks like a ring of fire. So it appears to be a ring of fire, but no ring of fire exists. It is all just an appearance. Everything you are experiencing is an appearance. It has no real existence. The only thing that has real existence, that which actually is the consciousness that is viewing it, that point of cognition that we all know, that which is hearing my words right now. I mean, it is that simple. It is nothing cosmic. It's nothing out there. It is your innate capacity to know, to experience at all. Without consciousness, there's no experience. There's no existence. Even the idea that, there was the Big Bang and, for 12 or 13 billion years, there was nothing at all. And then suddenly, somewhere along the line, consciousness emerged, is an idea in consciousness. None of this could be without consciousness. You would not exist without consciousness. And consciousness is not a product of matter. It's the other way around. The universe is a product of consciousness that lives in the timeless. This is the discovery. All of your human problems, all of them, no exceptions. Everything that is impelling a question today, which is not to diminish the questions, and I will answer as many as I possibly can, but the list is already so long, I'm not sure how far I'm going to get. But all of those things that trouble us, all of our suffering, all of our sense of deprivation, all of our heartbreak, arise from believing yourself to be what you are not. The first concept, the first idea accepted, I am the body. Prior to that, there was just I am. And not even the thought I am, just the sense I am, just pure, undifferentiated experience. But then the thought emerges, I am the body. And with that arises the entire plethora of, this is the Pandora's box. This is the eating of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. From there, I become now a limited, finite form. Don't actually become it. You can't become it. You're infinite consciousness. But you literally put yourself into a container and experience yourself as if you were a limited, finite being, seeking the immortality of a form that isn't even you, that is just an appearance and has no real existence. At the heart and soul of all of it is the sense of identity, the sense of who you are. And what I repeat every week, every day, all day, is you are not the body. Ramana Maharshi referred to the concept, I am the body, as the knot of the heart. It is the only thing that stands between you and the reality of your being. You are not the body, which means you're not the nervous system, you're not the thoughts, you're not the emotions, the sensations, you're not your conditioning, you're not your programmed responses, you are not your memories, you're not the traumas, the disasters, the tragedies. You are none of those. Those are all experiences that have appeared, shadow appearances on the screen of your actual being. But in the audience, you've always been in the audience, but you've identified with what is on the screen. You're not that. You never have been. You never will be. You are Brahma. You are Shiva being. You are all the gods, the goddesses, the angels, every level of a deity, every interdimensional being is you. It is all you. Come back to yourself. Step out of this notion as to who you are. Step out of the idea or concept and into the infinite ocean of non-conceptual existence, pure being. And as I was glancing through the questions, my heart just goes out to everyone. Right? You can feel it, the level of fear, of self-doubt, of concern, of anger and rage, of division, of so much of it just permeating just the field of energy of human consciousness. I invite you to step out of it and to become the light that illumines, shows the way for all beings. Not the lighthouse, which simply says, don't come here, there are rocks here, avoid this space, but more the light at the airport saying, come, land here. And on that note, dear friends, let me set in to my rather formidable to-do list here, and take a little shot of courage. No, it's not a tequila. It's not a margarita. Wasting away in Margaritaville. Great song. Okay. Hello, Faith. Right at the top. Got here early. Waiting for Satsang today. I know you always encourage me to keep on the inner work, and I have been doing that, and I know you have. However, last days have been terrible for me. My heart longing for love and sharing love with someone. My mind was addictively suggesting plans to find a way out from here. I know deeply that I can't do anything as ego, can change anything I am living, neither the way I talk to the man, nor my several applications for jobs, or my hard preparation for passing the test to get immigration. I know deeply that there is no cause and effect, and I know things happen, people find love, and this so-called third world can move to better place. But I'm suffering that also because I know that everything is God, and He is not helping me. I don't see His love for me or His mercy. Do you feel my love for you, Faith? I know you do. We've looked into each other's eyes, haven't we? That's the love of God. Not that I personally am God, right? But the light is. God is love. God is not someone who loves or withholds love, that puts conditions on it, that makes it subject to passing tests or being worthy of it. That's our human conception of God. It's a very personal God and not a very nice one. The Abrahamic God is not a nice being. It is a tribal warrior God for basically a warrior people, Bedouins living a harsh life. It was a harsh God. Follow these rules and things will get better. God is love itself, not a being that loves. So how is it possible for God, for that love to be withheld? It's like saying the light has decided to shine on this person, but not that one. The sun just shines. That's what it does. It isn't even aware of its own light. You know, the sun cannot see its own light. It emanates. It is the source of all life on this planet. And if there's life on other planets, it's the source of that as well. But it is the energy that moves everything here. But the sun can't see it. The sun simply is that. That love you seek. You could feel it. I know you can. Even the sense of it missing means something inside knows what it is. Now, don't call it ego, right? To want to live a better life, to go someplace where you're more free. You want to be free, and the culture, the environment you're living in right now doesn't fit you. I totally understand. And the desire for a love partner, a love companion, is the most natural human thing there is. I mean, it is the most natural thing there is. It is a need. It's not a nice to have. It's not something that we should deny. Even on the spiritual path, people who tried to deny it end up getting distorted. Right? It can be transcended, right? But that's not the goal. The goal is not to transcend our genuine human need for touch and contact. It starts when we're children, for crying out loud. And if we don't get it as children, it distorts our whole life. It's a serious trauma when we do not get that kind of bonding, that kind of connection, that kind of sense, because we intuitively know we need it. And as children, we're not rationalizing away, well, I guess I can't have it. There's something wrong with me or something like that, or I'm going to transcend it. Children just need it. They know they need it, and they know when they don't get it. And that's the essence of the traumatic environment that leads to the disconnect of our soul from our soul, which is really the cause of all problem. When I teach inner reconciliation, that's what you're reconciling with: yourself, your soul. You're reconnecting back to the parts of you that got hacked away simply because of your natural needs not being met. Natural need to be loved, to be touched, to be held. And religions can become very oppressive about that, especially with women. Right? It has to be strictly controlled. That's part of the whole first chakra tribal thing. It's all about control. It's not about love. It's not about nature. It's not about what people need. As a matter of fact, nature is fallen. Nature is the devil. Pan, the god, with the horns and and the legs of a goat, and became the Christian devil. It was nature. It was nature that was being fallen. That was being, because if I can replace nature with some kind of cultural control, boy, talk about ultimate control. So there's two parts to it. You have to live your life. You have to continue to allow yourself to meet men, although, it might be better when you're out of the country, and also to continue to prepare yourself, right? And to even recognize that desire for freedom must fulfill itself. Your desire to be free, to live in a place that is far more natural to you, that desire is coming from that same love. It is coming from God. It is inspired by that same divinity that is infinite freedom and wants to express that infinite freedom. So everything you're feeling is completely normal and natural. Don't call it ego. Don't say there's something wrong with your longing for the love, right? It's only when the mind steps in and says there's something wrong with it, or you're never going to have it, or, this is just ego, you should just be surrendering. When the mind starts doing that, notice it puts you in conflict with your own feelings. What's wrong with what you're feeling? Even intensely. Of course we feel these things intensely. Our desire for freedom, oh my God, It's the most intense thing there is. And this is a manifestation of your deep desire for absolute freedom. You know, they say in Buddhism, meditate like your hair's on fire. It's intense. It's passionate. I even heard a story of one Buddhist monk who was so intense about it. He was so tired of the struggle to become awakened. He had a stick of incense in one hand and a knife in the other. He says, if I'm not enlightened by the time this incense has burned to the end, I am taking my life. Guess what? By the time it had burned down, he had awoken. It was that kind of intensity. You know, the story of people who find out they're going to die, they get a death sentence, and everything in their life shifts. All of their priorities shift, and they end up not dying. Instead, they end up waking up. Numerous stories like that. So do not deny the intensity of your desire for freedom. Just direct it appropriately. But that doesn't mean don't continue to take the test. Take the steps. Prepare yourself. Make yourself completely, it's just unavoidable. You are so ready to earn that right to immigrate that they can't help but give it to you. The obstacles will fall away, I guarantee. But never, ever doubt this love. Do not let the mind rob you of, this love of God, this love that is God, the love that you feel, is also the love of freedom. It's also that desire for an intimate relationship. It's also love. It's all love, right? And that love is so infinite, it can take innumerable forms. Don't deny any of them. And what is it that you want for yourself? So isn't this the love of yourself? Isn't this the highest love? To give ourselves that freedom, that gift, that presence, that sweetness? That's the love that is God. This is how you experience it as yourself and not as some being dispensing it. It is the nature of the universe itself. It is the nature of your being and mine and everyone here. Faith, I love you so much. Crispin, hey, dear friend. Hey, everybody. Hi, GP. Your beautiful answer last Sunday, you said that the reconnection with our soul is the only cure. Would that be the practice of the yoga of allowing, for example? Yes. For me, that's where it starts. Right? To reconnect with myself. If I'm forever engaged in self-improvement and personal development and fixing this and fixing that and trying to make this better and making myself better and learning this and mastering these skills, I'm always seeking to become something worthy of connecting with, worthy of being anything, of receiving love, receiving reward, success, and all of that kind of stuff. So what we do in that process unwittingly is we deny ourselves. There's something wrong with me and I've got to fix it. So there's this continuing disconnection taking place, a self-denial. So it has to start with a willingness to simply be present with your own feelings, to stop labeling feelings as negative, bad, sinful, mistaken, awful, and simply be with them as they are. When you are, my experience has been consistently, they transmute. The illusion of them being negative emotion falls away. And instead, you discover them as trapped energy, as natural feelings you were not allowed to have, that was dangerous to have, and therefore the nervous system had to suppress them, push them out of the way, keep them buried away, and keep them away from you, if necessary, for your whole life, because of the underlying assumption that if they get expressed, you are going to be hurt. Because at one time it was true. This is the disconnect. That the trauma is the environment, right, of all the stuff. The actual thing that does the damage is the disconnection from your soul. When suddenly it's no longer safe to be and express yourself as you are. Therefore, you have to be put in the basement, and a false version of you has to be created to present to the environment in order to survive. Because if you are rejected by your tribe, you die. That is a fact. Especially human beings. My God, we're well into our teens before we have a chance of surviving on our own. We are the most weak, vulnerable critters on the planet. We are born premature, right? We have to be born premature. That's an actual fact. If we matured to the level that all other mammals do before they are born, our mothers would die. We'd be too big, could not get out of the body, right? So we are literally born premature with these soft heads so they can get out and alive. Completely and totally, we're more like marsupials, right? When they're born, they go out of the mother's womb, and the only thing they know how to do is crawl up and get into the pocket, which is where they now stay for months longer, months to come, right? Because again, they would be too big. If they were full size, they'd be too big to give birth to. So they start these tiny little things and that's where we're more like them, right? Except mom doesn't have a pocket, right? She has arms. She holds us. She hugs us, right? She loves us, hopefully. Some do. They all used to, but that's changed. Yoga of allowing is, well, in inner reconciliation, we call the first step invite, which is allowing, is meditation, is simply being present with yourself and watching yourself, dropping judgment, dropping an agenda, trying to become somebody or something, and just being present with your own feelings, which is extremely difficult for most people to do. And in and of itself, as it begins to become more natural to do, it has a powerful healing effect. And oftentimes, many traumas will simply fall away because you're now in a safe space. If you allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, you have created an inner environment of safety. And it was the inner environment of danger that created all of the traumatic material in the first place. It was not safe to be you, right? And unfortunately, self-help, personal development, all of these kinds of things are simply, with the best of intention, also making it not safe to be you. You have to become somebody else. Then you'll be okay. And it's inner reconciliation is, no, right now. Be safe right now. Be unconditional love right now. However you are, however grotesque you may seem to be, no matter how horrible you may think you are, be present with yourself as you are. That's genuine love. That's the love of God, the love it is completely and totally unconditional. And it creates the safe space, right? That if we had had it in the beginning, none of these things would have happened. So, yes, that is yoga of allowing is what I've come to call it. And I even have just allow it. I've got a whole, I don't know how many hours of a training program on that. It's another little thing I have called the yoga of allowing, and it's the first step in inner reconciliation, which really is soul reconciliation. I guess maybe I should have called it that, but soul reconnection. So thank you, Crispin. Hello, Robbie in Romania. Good to see you. Rosario, Madrid. Crispin. Oh, I realized I'm 1 hour early. You are. Am I? Nope. I'm on time. There's Roberto. Hello, buddy. Martin, hi there. Does black or white magic exist? And can someone be attacked, cursed, or healed through it? Oh, dear. Yes and no. When we are ignorant of our true nature, we are subject to all sorts of things. Things like black and white magic and that sort of stuff are, they're basically forms of manipulation, of trying to grab somebody's perception, planting thoughts in people's heads. There's all sorts of experiments been done with that. You know, the MK Ultra tests, where they were using psychedelics to do that, where the men who stare at goats and that sort of stuff. Psychic test. There was a book written, I think, back in the 60s or early 70s called Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain, where they were doing, the KGB, that were doing all sorts of experiments, psychic experiments for trying to influence people and kill people and the CIA was doing it too. I mean, of course, of course, we're not the good guys. And so what you're talking about really is someone's intention to harm you or to help you, right? Now, the intention to harm you puts you in direct opposition to the natural nature of life itself. Life has no interest in harming, right? That is, causing someone harm. That doesn't discount the fact that we eat things and things eat other things. It's not an intent to harm. It is simply the way an energy of life works. This is different, right? Now so the defense against that, right? And there's all sorts of people have different kinds of defenses against it. But the only way we could have a defense against it is we inherently have a superior power. And that superior power is the power of truth. The ultimate reality is the only thing that manifests in my life in any form are my own beliefs. Therefore, if I believe in black magic, if I believe that there's this person who has a power that can influence me, I will feel that influence, but it won't be coming from them. It will be coming from my belief in the influence. To understand that completely and totally empowers you. It all comes into your hands, and that means nobody has any power over you. That's the ultimate defense against black magic, to see it that it's not real. That only if I agree with it, because everything works like that, only my beliefs manifest in my life. I think that it's some kind of an external force, but it is my belief in the external force that is manifesting, not an external force. They don't exist. Now let's take the other side of it, white magic, the idea of healing. When you have an intention to heal, to genuinely benefit, which is pure, unselfish, right? Just to benefit, right? To help someone, to help others, that is in direct harmony with the truth of being, with the nature of love itself, and therefore is a manifestation of that love. Whereas the black magic, and I don't like to use that term, actually, we're talking about the intent to harm or the intent to bless. The intent to harm and the intent to bless cannot be coming from the same place. I like to call it black and white because, for obvious reasons, it has nothing to do with that. Right? It is the intent. The intent to harm comes from the ego. The intent to benefit, to bless, to heal comes from love itself. And therefore, it has a power. But ultimately, it is all the white magic, right? The light magic is the recognition that all power belongs to the individual. All power belongs to you. And that there is no illness, there is no sickness, there is no disease, there is no lack. They do not exist except as a belief. Eradicating that from yourself will in fact empower you to assist others in eradicating it from themselves, because you won't see them in those terms. You won't see somebody who's lacking. You'll simply see the belief of lack manifesting in front of you. It won't even be personal. It won't even be their belief in lack. It will be amorphous, genuine, general, impersonal. So I hope that answers your question succinctly. Right? It all comes down to you. What you hold to be true will be true. Period. It's an incredibly powerful thing to recognize. Roberto says, Faith, I deeply hope you find your way. She will, my friend. She will. She is. She is. Suzanne, I heard and sometimes understand that thoughts are not produced by a person. How can it be explained that something is on the tip of one's tongue? Thoughts are not produced by a person. The person is a thought. And it can't produce itself because it has an origin, it has a source. How can we explain that something is on the tip of one's tongue? Well, it's your experience, right? That's your actual experience. Right? We all have the experience of having a conversation right now, right? I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth. You know? But in fact, right that second, I thought it was headed that way, and all of a sudden it went this way, right? I have no idea what those next words are going to be. There's just the impulse to speak. Now, where are those coming from? Right? I have no idea. Yes, I do. They are coming from consciousness itself. This is consciousness manifesting in form. Right? I, as a person, am not creating it. There's no person here creating anything. Right? It's not like there's a me sitting here hearing thoughts and then saying them. There's no person here. There's only a thought arises, a concept, the lips move, the vocal cords, the hands move and gesture. It all happens very spontaneously. There's a belief that there's a person here through which it is coming. Right? And didn't that person create those thoughts? No, there's no person. And actually, even the thought is just the flow of energy, the flow of intelligence that is appearing to you, recognized by you. So you don't need a person to have the experience of speaking, do you? You notice that it just comes out of nowhere. You start talking with somebody and you don't have a script as to what you're going to say, right? Unless it's something formal, giving a talk or a job interview and you're watching every word. For the most part, it's just kind of flowing as you're having a conversation with a friend, right? And you don't know exactly what you're going to say. That is the exact words until you open your mouth. There's a feeling and there's a knowingness of what you're about to say, right? And then magically the words fit the kind of the invisible or silent or emptiness that is now making itself manifest. That's why in the Sanskrit word for emptiness is shunyata, which means a pregnant emptiness. It's just there's this out of the emptiness of the womb, life comes. So the phenomena of creation, of us witnessing creation happening all the time, is real. It's absolute, right? It's undeniable. It's everybody's experience. The interpretation of it as being a creation of some person is an idea. It's a concept superimposed upon the actual thing that's happening. Right? Just see the actual thing that's happening, and you realize this is the wondrous mystery of life, that consciousness manifests itself in form, words and ideas and expressions and questions and images on a screen and the like. It's all consciousness manifesting itself, and there is no person. It doesn't belong to anybody. There isn't even a person here speaking. Thank you, Suzanne. I hope that answers it for you. Annette Rockstar. Hello, G. When free will doesn't exist and I don't have control over my life, how can I not see everything as unimportant? Well, it's not that you'll see it as unimportant, right? Is this unimportant that I'm sitting here now answering your question? Isn't it important for you that that I'm able to answer that question? But somebody else, matter of fact, everybody who's not here, this isn't important, is it? So it's not. What happens is that important and unimportant lose their absolute meaning, and you see them as just part of the relative flow of things. If I'm hungry, eating's important, right? if I'm going to go somewhere, my car is important. Right now, my car is completely unimportant. I didn't even think about it until this came up as an example. It's sitting down in the garage. I have no use for it until I have a use for it, right? So what happens is that the burden of having to do something, all these choices I have to make, falls away. And you see things from a very different perspective. And of course, what is important then is different, right? It's still important that I'm here Sunday at noon, right? It's important. Right? I mean, if I was doing something else, it wouldn't be important, right? And something may come up that's more important. That would mean I can't do this 1 week. But so far, it's been so important that for the most part, 50 weeks out of the year, for the last 3-4 years, this is where I've been. You see, the ego, wanting to hold on to free will, imagines that if the ego isn't in control, nothing's going to be important. That is the clown taking the bow for the acrobats. You will find that the flow of what matters and what doesn't matter continues. And it's just a beautiful part of life. Being with your kids is important, right? Not all the time, right? Sometimes you need what's important is more important is being here, and you'll see that it is a continuum. It's not an absolute. The ego always wants to put things in absolutes. This is important. This is not. The ego and politicians, which are one and the same, right? They make something, to adhere to. It's just too regimented. Life flows. What's important flows. What's important in the morning won't be important in the evening. Something you really want to do, but if you're dead tired and you have to sleep, guess what? It's not as important as sleep. Right? So just let yourself flow with it and recognize, without the burden of, I've got to choose, I've got to make it happen, I've got to do something, that there's just a natural drawing. You're drawn to what needs to happen in the moment, but you don't have to decide the importance or unimportance of it. Life does, right? And it becomes obvious. It becomes so simple. It becomes so self-evident that, this is important right now, right? You're doing something and suddenly your kids start screaming. That just suddenly became more important than this, right? Or your dear friend needs help. This is how these things, this is how we just have a much more fluid relationship with life. And we drop the idea that there's these absolutes. There aren't any. They don't exist. The only absolute is your being. That is an absolute. That never changes. Thank you, Annette. Lovely. My resident rock star. Playing. There you are, man. Hello, G, and everyone else. Greetings from rainy Sweden. Working the night shifts. I'll be watching later. Another great satsang waits. So good to hear from you. Faith is saying, thank you to Roberto. Just remember the loving words. I hope you find your way too. Beautiful. Justine. Hello, everyone. I live together with a person that treats me as badly as my parents did. I don't feel safe, and I feel like a hurt child again, and I act accordingly and apologize for everything. What can I do? Thanks a lot. Well, yes, it's very true that when we are treated badly as children, we come to just kind of expect it. God, it's such a tragedy, but it keeps us from being able to expect anything more from ourselves, and therefore we don't feel worthy of anything. So you apologize for everything. It must be my fault. Because underneath, that little child still believes it's your fault. Because as a child, it is, right? The child, it doesn't matter how well the parent tries to couch it or how sincere the parent is, the child always sees it as their own fault. It's just part of our survival mechanism. You know, the parents must be absolute. When a child's faith in the parents is crippled, they're just completely out to lunch. They're completely lost because they have to believe in them because you're incapable of taking care of yourself. So if something happens that's deeply disturbed, that's disturbed, the ramifications of it, the ripple of that goes on, can go for your entire lifetime. Was my experience, and I, to this day, I still see those ripples going. I it very well may be there till the time this body finally falls away. My salvation is I'm aware of them and I know what they are and I know who I am, right? But that hasn't made them go away, right? That kind of deprivation just kind of ripples through the system, right? So on a very practical level, you recognize that this has happened, that there's an energy inside of you that blames themselves for this, doesn't feel like they're anything, they are not worthy of anything better. And then make a conscious choice to free yourself from it. Get out of it. Right? It will be the most difficult thing you can do because the child doesn't feel deserving. It doesn't know how it's going to take care of itself. But understand that is an energy inside of you, right? That is a little child and doesn't know how to take care of herself. But you're not that anymore. You actually do know how, and asserting that that level of authority at this level will begin to parent that child to make it once again feel as if it is worthy of that love. You will step in and become the parent you never had, and it will feel it. And it will begin to step into it naturally because every child is naturally resilient and naturally gravitates towards love. And every child knows that it is worthy. And so it's quite a traumatic thing to have to accept that you're not. You have to bury all your worthiness. You have to pretend it doesn't exist, but it's still there. That's your original innocence. So it becomes a matter of get support, get help, get people around you, and get out. Get out of that, right? Continue to get help, continue to do the inner work so that it does not happen again. Make sure you have people around you that can assist you, teachers and as well as friends. That's what I would say, especially if it's physically abusive, you do it now. I mean, do not hesitate, right? And it's very rare for me to tell somebody what to do, but I know the damage that happens when you persist in a relationship, something like that, because it's part of what the result of what I received as a kid was just never accepting the fact that I was a resource. I wasn't to be loved. I was an energy that continued even after my enormous spiritual experience at 19. It took quite a while to kind of sort through all of that stuff. So that would be what I have to say, Justine. Thank you. And I'm sure you can feel all the love coming from everybody who read that and I'm sure you can feel it in your heart, all the support that's right here. There's Awakened INFJ. Happy to be here with you, and thanks, G, for everything. You're very welcome. Roberto, G, is there a way to take action, or is it useless because what has to happen will happen? I've always had the feeling that I have not done enough. Action comes and goes. If we feel it's like this personal thing, I must take action, that's the ego. That's traumatic stuff. That's afraid to trust. It's afraid to let go. It's afraid to take a step. So that feeling, I have not done enough, is what needs to be looked at. Not the need to take action or not. That's just part of life, right? But the feeling that I have to. That if I don't, something bad's going to happen, that I've never done enough, is a habitual pattern of thought that you have to stand aloof from, right? And recognize it's not telling you the truth. Right? It is a feeling. It is a thought pattern that has just kind of gotten ingrained, that assumes if things aren't the way they're supposed to be, I must not have done enough. So it isn't about seeing that what's going to happen will happen, because as you can see, that can either be very empowering. Oh, I don't really have control over it, or it can be terrifying, right? Or it can even be resignation. Oh, well, everything's just going to happen. It's God's will. It is what it is. You can feel the different energy, right? And the very same idea, and it's true, but on one hand, it's taken by the ego and becomes resignation or self-condemnation. On the other hand, it's taken by the self, and it is relished in. It's celebrated. My God, I'm free. I don't have. It's not all my doing. The action that needs to be taken, I will be inspired to take it in the moment, and I don't have to worry about it. And until I am, there's nothing for me to do, right? Or at least nothing about that. Other things. Take a walk with your wife. Listen to a satsang, all those kinds of things, right? But that feeling I have not done enough is a lie. It's not your friend. It isn't telling you the truth. It's an old habit, and just withdraw your attention from it. Don't engage with it. Don't try to figure out whether it's true or not. It isn't, right? Life has a natural flow to it. You cannot stop yourself from taking action when needed to. It's not that everything's just going to happen by itself. You will be participating in it, right? But you're not the source of it. You're not the authority behind it, right? It is all flowing through you. And that wisdom knows exactly what to do in the right quantity. So the thought, I have not done enough, is all the ego trying to take control, and afraid, taking control and then afraid of its own results. And it's a horrible trap to get into. Now, the tyranny of what's next is what Nisargadatta called it. Thank you, Roberta. The Awakened INFJ. I listened to you 90% of my days for the last months. Before that, it wasn't daily, but now, the sweetness. The last days, so much presence, inner calm. Basic safety is getting normal. Finally, morning. Moringa, Shizandra Berrien, and Hisho Wu are amazing herbs that I recommend people looking into. Nice momentum for body, mind, surely for me. Thousands of years used herbal medicines. Very good. And very good about the presence. The constant exposure to this kind of an inquiry, and this kind of it's pure love, right? Notice there's no judgment, there's no criticism, there's nothing. So let's look at what's actually here. You look at what's actually here, there's no criticism of, there's no judgment, there's no 10 commandments. There's just, this is how life actually is. I'm harmonizing with it. I'm coming into my own presence. And the more you expose yourself to that, the more the whole energy system, the whole nervous system is simply going to harmonize with it. It's going to reflect it. It's going to vibe with it, if you will, right? Like listening to a piece of music, eventually you groove with it, right? It just kind of takes you over. So thank you, Jonas. Juliana, can you talk about flow? I can. And I will. Let me sip on my tea here for a second. Sometimes I just get really overwhelmed with so much love and affection for you all. Just how much heart I experience from you all, how much authenticity, and just sometimes it takes the form of the craving for love and wisdom, but even that I see as such a marvelous thing. I'm just really grateful for you all. The flow is life. Look around. Everything is a flow. Everything that looks solid isn't. It's a flow. It's constant motion. That's the word. The Tao means the flow, the way things actually are. And so you see that there's nothing but flow. There are no solid objects. Nothing is fixed, right? Especially our own identity, our sense of self. Mind makes an object where there isn't one. Right? We talk about wind as if it's a thing, and it's not. It's a movement, right? What's the wind? Well, it's things in motion. Right? What's a river? We say a river, and we think of a river, and we name it as if it's a thing, right? Well, it's a hole in the ground. And there's this constant flow going through it, right? And what happens to that flow when it hits the ocean? Right? We don't look out and see the river. We don't see the Nile out there in the Indian Ocean. I think that's where it moves in. Oh, there it is. There's the Nile out there. No, it's gone. It is the ocean. It is just a constant flow of transformation. So transformation is all there is. That's the subtitle of my radio show. Transformation is all there is. It's just nothing is ever static. You're not static. Thinking you are static is the cause of the problem. I think I am a person. When I think of myself as a person, I become a thing. Suddenly I've frozen. It's like I've frozen the river. Because if I think of myself as a person, then I take on characteristics that I believe to be permanent. Oh, this is the way I am. I've always been like this. I'm always going to be like that. And it's not true. It is a flow, and it's constantly changing. When we let go, right, we begin to flow with it, right? Even if a river is flowing very quickly, if I'm flowing with it, I don't have a sense of motion relative to the river, do I? I'm still. We in the river are one. I'm on a train. I don't carry my luggage on the train. I set it down. I let the train carry it. Right? I am in the flow. I am surfing the wave. Right? You are a flow. Your life is a flow. Never think of it as static. Never think of it as sitting still. Okay. Now the flow, in order for it to be seen as the flow, there must be something that isn't moving, that isn't flowing, that isn't transforming. That's consciousness. That is the witness of the flow. And you can verify that for yourself. Just look at your own life and notice that while everything in your life has changed, every event, every person, every action, everything has been a constant change, constant shift, that the nature of experiencing itself, the nature of consciousness itself has been absolutely unchanging. That's because it's not a thing. There are no things at all. What appear as things are actually just the flow of transformation. And consciousness, which is the witness of that, is not a thing. There are no things in the universe. There are no objects. This is what Buddha meant by saying there was no self. There's no self in persons. It's a flow. There's no self in things. They're all flow. There's no self in teachings. They're all flow. They're dynamic for the moment. The way I teach now, it's not the way I taught 2 years ago. And I suspect it won't be the way I teach a year from now. Everything is just in constant transformation, and therefore responding to it. But the truth remains the same, does it not? Understanding all experience as a flow, nobody tries to hold on to the river. right? Nobody says, go, grr, stay where you are, grab onto that, you know. Nobody tries to do that. We enjoy the flow. We swim in the flow. We flow with it. We'll raft down it. We that's what we do. If you do that, then you find everything in your life to be quite harmonious. But when we try to take the flow and freeze it, we find we can't. It's kind of like standing in a river trying to push it back upstream, right? You know, you're gonna get pummeled by all the water, the stuff that's coming. You're holding onto stuff. Go back. But if you just let go and you join the flow, what happens? Oh, just kind of float downstream. It's completely in the flow. And that's what it means to be in the flow or in the zone, or, you know, we're just kind of like, you know, it's percolating. It's happening right now, creative flow or whatever. It's always happening. And just let go of the idea that you're a thing. You're not a thing. You've never been a thing. You never will be a thing. So you can let go of any sense of identity whatsoever, because by the time you formed an image of who you are, it's changed. So form no image of who you are. Do not think of yourself as a person. All you ever experience are a particular bundle of qualities that that are changing constantly. Don't project any kind of permanence or personhood onto what in fact is just a bundle of qualities that are in constant motion. And you'll find that your being is not stuck anywhere. And that you are both the flow and the witness of the flow. Beautiful. Thank you, Giuliani. Roberto, lately I've come to understand and feel a few things. I don't know what to do with it, though. Good. Good. It's your mind that wants to know what to do with it. Your mind wants to put it to work, right? Oh, inspiration. Good. I'll take it from here. No, you won't. I have come to understand that I've not given much to life, and then life has not given me much, therefore. That might be because that is what I needed, but it's hard when one realizes. Okay. If there's a realization of that, first off, don't be hard on yourself, right? Because there can be a tendency to, oh, I'm so selfish, right? The realization that it's very natural. The more afraid we are, we become more self-absorbed. It's just what happens, right? And the more desperate we feel, it is the nature of life. And so as that begins, a heart begins to open up, it's very natural to recognize that, right? And so good. I'm sure there's plenty of people around you that need your love, need some unselfishness, that need you to give to them. So just give it, but don't turn it into something you have to do. Don't turn it into a project. Instead, just let this natural spirit of freedom take you over. Bring you to this place of forgiveness, the place of understanding, the place where you recognize that none of this is your fault, right? That what we become is a result of our interaction with life based on our own experience and conditioning and it's just impossible for us to have been any different. Realizing that, there's this wonderful sense of forgiveness, a discovery of our inherent innocence in the presence of this love that is so loving that it is bringing about this transformation in you. It is bringing about the realization, right? And you don't have to know what to do with it. You just have to let it wash over you. Let it purify your heart and awaken you. And you'll find yourself just doing things differently. It'll just happen very naturally, not dramatically. It doesn't have to be dramatic at all. It'll be very subtle. Sabugo. Hey, Tony. Hello, dear master. In our last conversation, you put a mirror in front of me and reminded me of who I am. Identification, so isness, stillness. Stillness. Yes, thank you, master. I shall abide in remembrance of who I really am. Namaste. Oh, thank you, Tony. Thank you. Yes, you are the stillness. You're not the image in the mirror. It's only a reflection. And the original can't see itself. It can only see itself reflected. The sun doesn't see itself. It doesn't see its own light. It only sees it reflected back at it, but it's the sun. It's not the light of the earth or the moons of Jupiter or Saturn. It is the sun. Roberto asked Faith what country she's in. She's in Algeria. Roberto, I got my vaccine today. I was reluctant and against it in the beginning, but I've realized I'm part of the world, so I need to take part in it. Good. I actually got criticized because I had said that people should just make up their own mind about it. I have my reservations as well. I've not gotten it. I'm not saying I'm not going to. I'm just trying to sort through all the information to make sense out of it. I know many, many people who have. Everybody in my family has. All bugging me, right? They want the old guy to to get it. I am in the most vulnerable group, right? Well, not the most vulnerable because I'm healthy, but however anybody arrives at that decision, please don't let anybody criticize. Please do not be harsh on each other. Don't say somebody doesn't want to get it. They're anti-science or they're anti-vax. I mean, that kind of polarization does not help anything. Does not help anyone. Be loving. Right? That lovingness is more important than anything. Right? That kind of unconditional love is what will restore humanity to its wholeness. So, thank you, Roberta. Yeah. And I can sense in that for you, it was an act of unselfishness. Right? You felt like do your part, and there's truth to that. People are are afraid that when others do, it's just kind of the nature of things. So everybody just do what you feel is the best thing to do. Come to a decision yourself. Okay. Merck, greetings from Sweden. Hope you're well. Just had a thought. Is all this awareness business only difficult to grasp because mind can only handle concepts? Yes, that's it. Mind cannot fathom the non-dual. It cannot fathom one. Remember, mind is nothing but thinking, and thinking is conceptual. It is representational, and I can only know this in terms of that. How do you know the infinite? There's nothing to compare it to. Just empty space, right? Just take empty space. What is it? Without anything in it, space is undefined. Even Einstein said space without something in it, space doesn't exist. It and objects are one. Therefore, it doesn't have an actual existence. The mind can only deal in objects, subject and object, describing one thing in terms of another. That is the whole of human knowledge, which is why all human knowledge is relative, and why the mind fails at the ultimate inquiry as to who am I? Because to ask who am I, you are making an inquiry into that which is not an object. Now, I may say you're an object. I look at you, yeah, but you're this, this, and this, but that's not your direct experience. That's hearsay. That's describing, taking on an idea of myself based on somebody else's impression of you. That's not your experience. So to truly know yourself directly, you cannot use any kind of discursive logic. You cannot use what we normally regard as knowledge. That's why it's called Vedanta, the end of knowledge. It transcends knowledge. That is knowledge of subject object. Knowing this in terms of that. You cannot describe yourself in terms of anything else. That's not your experience. You cannot stand apart from yourself and look at yourself as an object. Therefore, all objective knowledge is useless for this kind of an inquiry. It is as Muji puts it, a non-phenomenal recognition. So you know that you are. How do you know? This knowledge that I am is not because I'm standing here looking at me. I can't. It is a non-phenomenal recognition. It is non-conceptual recognition. I use concepts and words and images and metaphors to point to it, but none of them can express it. How can they? How can you express the infinite or pure space? Can't be done. You cannot know yourself as an object. So this knowledge, right, is pure subjectivity. And that's why it is, quote unquote, as you put, difficult to grasp. In fact, it's impossible to grasp. As Nisargadatta put it, I am that by which I know I am. That's it. You know that you are. How do you know? I just know. Put all of your attention in that knowingness, because that is non-dual knowledge. That is jnana knowledge. That is true knowledge. That is the Vedantic knowledge, that which is beyond subject-object knowledge, which means it is beyond classical analysis, it is beyond scientific analysis, it is beyond all modes and categories of human thought. It is transcendent of all description. And yet, if I ask you, are you? You will say yes. And you won't hesitate to answer. And everybody in the world could say, no, you're not. And you laugh. It's self-evident truth. Examining deeply, inquiring into that, knowing that I am, wow. How do I know? I just know. That is true knowledge. So when you start to see the difference between the idea of what we think ourselves to be and the non-conceptual presence of who we really are, mind doesn't know how to handle that. It can't handle it. It must conceptualize. It has to have a reference point. It has to have a starting point. It has to form some object, and then it can compare and contrast to that object. But the object the object itself cannot exist without something else. As Buddha says, dependent arising. Everything has to happen simultaneously. Nothing can exist on its own. Without short, there is no tall. Without female, there is no male. Without dark, there is no light. That's the nature of all existence. It is the flow of opposites. It is yin yang. That is the nature of all the manifest world. It is not the nature of consciousness. And that is the great discovery. That's why these pointers take you beyond mind to the sense of simply being. And as that becomes more and more, you become more and more aware of the profundity of that. You look less and less to the conceptualization of the mind, and this is what Ramana refers to as sinking into the heart, the recognition that isn't conceptual. That's the heart. That's the true heart. The I truly know. I am. The I am that. Wicked J, friends, give our man, our main man GP some likes. Thank you for saying that. Yes, great. I agree. Give me some likes. Although I don't really know, I only have an idea of how many people are here and how many likes I get because, I'm broadcasting to two groups and YouTube, two groups on Facebook, YouTube simultaneously. And StreamYard can only get so much. So I have no idea. So like me, please like me. Please be my friend. Oh, Roberto, if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. Bless you. Oh, Faith, you are so loved. Ava, namaste, Georgie, and everybody. Love from Poland. What a beautiful this patron portal on your website, and the featured meditation allowing portal, the eternal moment between, has been my favorite since I first listened to it. And thank you once more for amazing and so powerful session this Wednesday. I'm doing your tapping every morning. Wonderful. I guess I should. Patron. I don't know what the link is. Is it gpwalsh.com/patron? Is that what it is? I think it is, yes. I have collected excerpts from the satsangs, excerpts from live meditations I've done, all of the replays of my radio show, and what else? Oh, and a bunch of tapping videos, and I put them all together on my site, gpwalsh.com. And I think it's gpwalsh.com/patron. It's $15 a month US, which means it's way less, a little more in Canada, way less in Europe. I wanted to get off of Patreon because I didn't like the direction they were going. I wanted to give people something, but I wanted to encourage people to kind of regularly donate to help me offset the expenses of all of this, which is not small. And so it'd be really great if I could have if I could know that there's a certain amount coming in. And in this case, Patreon isn't taking a cut of it. The majority of it goes to me. Obviously, the credit cards have to get their pound of flesh. But so if you're so inclined to help me out with this and see it as a patron thing, and not just subscribing for the stuff. Although I am putting a lot of stuff there, and I'm going to keep refreshing it. In each of the categories, I've got the allowing category, which is meditation. I've got the inquiry, which is satsang. I've got the touch, meridian tapping, and I've also got the radio show. And I will be putting new material there in each one of those every month, probably rotating. The exception of the radio show, which I do every week, that I just refresh it. And I'm taking the old stuff off so you're not overwhelmed, so there's not 1,000 things to look through. There's only 20 to 30 things in each category. So I certainly hope you guys will find it in your hearts to join up. You also get a 10% discount on all my classes, so that's kind of a benefit too. So I'm trying to make it a premium thing, but basically it really helps me. I have other people I'm working with now. I'm trying to grow this, and it's becoming a kind of a strain on my own personal resources because I'm not a wealthy man. Hello, Ursula in Madeira. So good to see you. Island in Portugal. Phoenix, human body, and what is inside the body is our spacesuit to live in this simulation. Yeah, it's kind of a way to put it. Is a vehicle through which we get to experience. And in that sense, it is totally innocent and necessary, right? Without form, there is no experience. We identified with the body, with the spacesuit, with the meat bag, if you like, and thus created an image of ourselves, which is way less than what we actually are. And therein lies the problem. That's the whole problem. That's it. I believe myself to be the body. You're not the body. Your consciousness animating the body. You're not actually even in it. It's in you. You are animating it. You are a non-dimensional field of being that is animating forms appearing within itself. And it is non-dimensional, infinite in all directions, means there's only one of them. There isn't like you are one thing in a meat bag and I'm in another. There's only one I, and it is animating all of the spacesuits. Thank you, Phoenix. Ivan, getting hearts of all colors. Thank you. And a thumbs up. Oh, there's David and Elaine. Finally got down to you guys, an hour, 20 minutes in. Whoa. Hello, Sifu. Hello, Penny. Ecstatic. Oh boy, just jumped down. Let's see. Hey, Mikey. Hello. So good to see you. Mikey Adam Cohen, my new friend. Just met recently. Very nice, very nice. Let's see, where am I? Oh, there you are. Oh, did I put you up? Sorry, I didn't mean to put you up on the screen. Hello, Penny. So good to see you. Oh, you're listening to the Bhajas. Jonah's listening to the Bhajas from Muji. Oh, they're so good. Those musicians are just amazing. I've met many of them. They are just incredible. There's Diane in the UK. Happy to be with you too. Robbie, question. Could you talk about what is wrong with ambition and other activity, if it exists? Could be a better, healthier substitute in pursuing goals and aspirations? Well, remember, it's just the desire to grow and evolve is purely natural in the human being. Look, you can't avoid it, right? It's just part of being human. You know, when the lion feeds itself, right? It feasts on the prey, and they sit around and sleep for 3 days. They don't do anything. They don't build anything. They make little lions, right? But pretty much they just kind of lay around, play. That's it. With us, when our basic needs are met, something else kicks in. There's this, when we feel safe, the energy switches to its creative expressive mode. It's the nature of us. We want to build stuff, create stuff, make things, do art, dance, accomplish things, build stuff, make crafts, have exchange, have relationships, community. It's our nature, right? So what we have to discern is what is our nature and what has this false sense of self or the egoic mind done to appropriate that and make it put it to itself. And so what happens when these natural impulses take on this character of necessity, then they become goals and strategies and plans. They stop being the childlike natural tendency to create and self-express, and they turn into these, really, they get kind of oppressive, right? Living your dreams and to chain your goals, and you do all of this, and you have to, make your vision board and get out your Pomodoro tomato timer and organize your day and network, and all of those things can happen very naturally, or they can happen artificially. And you can feel the difference, right? There's nothing wrong with our natural desire to evolve. How could there be? It's our natural desire. There's nothing wrong with blinking or digesting your food. There's nothing wrong with the creative impulse, right? When we call it an ambition, now it becomes something a personal sense of self, wants to attain. Now it's not natural anymore. The impulse is natural, but it is now being colored by the egoic mind. And now it becomes a possession. And now the mind starts going, I'll be better when I get it. And it creates suffering. It creates the sense of lack. For a child, it's not a sense of lack that to express themselves. It's completely natural. There's no thinking about lack. There's no idea there. That comes with the ego. Now, something personal, some kind of personal enhancement or attainment gets associated with the creative impulse, a creative idea. And now all of a sudden it becomes I'm trying to serve the ego, because the ego doesn't have any real power. There's nothing natural about it. It makes up strategies and plans and or create a vision board or a checklist, or studies various ways of how to achieve success and leadership skills and all of that kind of stuff. It turns the whole thing into this I mean, I can't stand it. It's just like kills the spirit, right? The heart loves the vision. It hates the how. It hates the how too. It hates the process. I don't want a process. I don't care about process. Let process happen. And process does happen because that energy, that impulse of creation is not a personal possession any more than the color of your hair is a personal possession, or the digesting of food. Right? They're not personal possessions. They're the nature of life itself. When you realize that your creative impulse is the creative impulse of the universe. And you can let go of trying to figure out how it's going to happen. You simply surrender to it. As I put it in the class I just did on your four powers of creation, you're the garden in which it's growing. Oops, I'm going to knock this over any second now. You're the garden in which it's growing. You're not responsible for the seed. You're not the power that's going to make it. It doesn't need a checklist, right? It doesn't have to network. You just provide the space in which it can grow. That's it. That's all you have to do. And it will collect its own energy. That acorn, that insignificant little thing, will become a 200-foot tall giant sequoia. And there, you don't need to do a damn thing. Right? But if you are just that garden in which it grows, it becomes joyous. It's a very feminine energy, by the way, right? It's the womb of being, the womb of the goddess, right? Where you are simply, you don't even know what it's going to be. When that child is conceived, you have no idea what it's going to become. We want to think we can, and sometimes we try to force the kid. But what's it going to be? I don't know. Every impulse, every creative desire, all of that, think of it as a seed, and you don't even know what kind of plant it is. But it's going to be something wonderful. So just water it, and you be the garden. Water yourself. Just take pleasure in the actual unfolding of it, right? Which is not goal-oriented. It's the nature of Tantra too, by the way. It's not just about sex. It's about removing the goal orientation from life so that this moment becomes blissful and not some future moment that we eventually get to, which is what happens when it becomes goal oriented, right? What about right now? What's the goal right now? To be now. That's it, right? Are you here and now? Goal fulfilled. Done. You're done. Well done. Thanks, Robbie. Bonsoir from France. GP, thank you so much for your wonderful satsangs. Oh, you're so very welcome. Hit that like button. Spread the word. Thank you, Jonas. There's Liza. Hello, Liza. David and Lane, have you come across the Christian mystic Marguerite Porete? I think that's how you pronounce it, or Porete. Such beautiful insights. I am God by way of my divine nature. God is love, and love is God. Church didn't like this. Continued. Hold on. She refused to remove her book, The Mirror of Simple Souls, from circulation, so she was burned at the stake for heresy. Could we have such resolve when faced with such consequences? Yeah. If only we could. Yes, I have heard of her. I only heard of her because of a YouTube channel I like to watch called Let's Talk Religion. It introduced me a lot of things. And the other mystic was actually of her same period. Meister Eckhart was also of that same period, but he was so well known and was so actually in the church that he wasn't executed. He was eventually put on trial for heresy, and he died. And they actually tried him for heresy after the fact, and did find him guilty of heresy. But she suffered, and yeah, I mean, her insights are just are stunning. It's like listening to the Sufis, and of course, this is what happens when you contradict the official narrative, which means you contradict the love of power. Hello, Marlo. I'm so glad you're here too. Let's see. The U.S. I'll always have your back. The us. You can stay here. Many of us loved a physical satsang, so to speak, in Sweden. Love Jonas. Thank you. I'd love it. You're the best GP, says Miliana. Thank you. We are, aren't we? Yeah. Hello, Jay. There's Bob. Hey, Bob, my friend in Serbia. The name I don't really know how to pronounce, so we just call her Bob. Hello, Bob. Hi, GP, and all from Southern Nevada. There's Robert, and there's Faith. Sue, GP, looking forward tonight. It's like being with dear friends. It is with being with dear friends. I look forward to these too, just being with my buds. I have such a pressing question for you the other day, and now I can't remember it. Anyway, love you so much, GP. Isn't that something? Yeah. And don't try to dig it up. The real questions that need to get answered, they'll persist, right? But oftentimes it's just the mind gets curious about something and lets it go, gets curious. The deeper questions, they're not going to go. They're just not going to go away until they are fulfilled. Because the deep question is, of course, they are all variants of the one question, which is, who am I? Hello, Michael. Hi, my mind has really been acting up for the last couple of weeks. It's beating up and all over the place. Any suggestions? Yes. Notice how your mind wants to turn it into a problem. There's this underlying spiritual notion that my mind should be quiet. It's not true. Mind doesn't have to be quiet any more than the wind has to stop, right? Simply watch it. Just what it is an exercise for you to notice all the different ways in which the mind engages your attention and makes it look like it's something important. It's not important. Whatever the mind is doing, it's not important. But the only reason it's doing it is to grab your attention and get you engaged, make you think there's something wrong, and therefore you're not the self. You're not really the self. You can be someday, but you're not going to be able to be the self until you deal with me. Make me go away, then you'll be the self. Oh boy, you'll be arguing with that forever. So it's not a problem. Simple as that. It's not a problem. Just notice it. Use it as an invitation to deepen your insight, to notice the subtle ways in which we get engaged in the idea, I am not the self. The self somehow can be blocked by this active mind. What is it that's aware of the active mind? Has the mind successfully blocked it? Or is it just trying to make you think that it has? Are you on the other side of the mind? Or are you here looking at it? Stay here. Abide as the conscious self. And then the mind will cease to be an issue. You'll find that it's trying to make itself a problem that you have to solve. You don't have to solve it at all because it's not a problem. That's simply another thought. Does that help, Michael? Very good. Hello, Hendrik. Good to see you. Jay, I kind of distance myself from talking to some friends on a regular basis. Most of the time, the conversation about stuff I'm not really interested in or don't know much about. Continued. Sometimes jokes are made at my own expense and we all have a laugh about, or I'm straight up ignored. LOL. And one day I felt like it was probably necessary to distance myself, so I did. And one of them was like, hey, where the heck are you? Where where the heck were you? Just say, I need to be myself. Don't turn these things into issues. Yeah. Remember, there's always a dynamic amongst friends. And when somebody shifts that dynamic, everybody feels it. This is especially true if the dynamic, it's some kind of activity that is like not all that healthy, like drinking buddies, right? Getting loaded every night. And somebody decides they want to do that anymore. It's kind of a threat to the others. That's a severe case, but all friendships have that kind of a dynamic. And just kind of take it as somebody who's genuinely cares about you and wants to know what's happening. You say, I need some time to myself. That's all. Or in your case, I need some more time with my new baby. You got a perfect excuse. It'll cover everything. You don't have to explain yourself at all. But I congratulate you for just feeling the need for the distance and taking it, and not feeling any kind of obligation about it. Now, don't be concerned how they respond. And it doesn't mean you'll be gone forever. You may come back, right? There's nothing wrong with light relationships. I talk to people all the time. Had a little conversation with the waitress. I actually went out to dinner and had and ate, and the waitress had several tattoos. So I asked about the tattoo because they were really well done. A little conversation. That's it. That's all there is to it. Server, I should say. Waiter and waitress. There's Merck saying hello to Jonas. Hey, there's Dale. How you doing, Dale? Gee, I can't watch live. We'll watch fully later. How to deal with breakup. I'm dealing really well, actually, but love her so much. Any words of wisdom? Hope you're okay, G. I am. Thank you. Breaking up is hard to do, as Neil Sedaka put it so well. You have to realize that it's a form of grief we have to go through. Maybe it's actually even harder than the grief of somebody dying, because you can still create stories about how you could get her back, and the possibility of reconciliation can loom there. So people can hang on to these things for a while. But there's just a natural dynamic in a love relationship, especially if you've been living together, which I think you guys were. Your lives have conjoined. It's like a divorce, right? It's no less than a divorce, except maybe there's not the same kind of contractual or financial things that have to be sorted out at a court. It's just kind of can be done between the two of you. But what it represents, of course, is all of that, is that an energy has entwined. The energy has formed a circuit. The two have become one, right, in all aspects of life. When that separation takes place, the nervous system will take a while to readjust, right? You go to make a decision and the impulse is, I wonder how it will affect her. And you don't have to do that anymore. Your nervous system now doesn't know what to do. It has a different criteria for living. That the feeling of that adjustment from that oneness to that singleness, to not having that energy flow, is what we call grief. And you just let it happen. The body will want to reestablish that connection. The nervous system will. Of course it will. That's the nature of it. If it can't, it will eventually come to accept that. It will eventually come to say, okay, I got to let go now, and you'll feel it. But you don't force it. You don't try to reframe it. You don't feel it. Feel the loss. When you love somebody, like, you get that close, and of course you love. You probably always will, right? Even people say, I hate him, I can't stand him, that sort of thing. There was somebody there that you loved, and I don't like the idea of trying to make yourself not love them. Instead, let that love be there, recognizing that the relationship had run its course, but love is forever. And I think you'll find it's a very smooth transition. The whole energy system knows how to do this. You don't have to have any special strategy. Just be with your feelings as they are, and then recognize the reality If it truly is over, you recognize that it's over, and then you be with the feelings that result from that, and you will find the fastest transition there is to the place of equanimity and healing, and that energy pattern will have split off, but the love will still be there. There won't be any kind of hard feelings or bitterness or anything. Thank you, Dale. The two Renaissance. Hello, two Renaissance. Let's see. Hello, Karen. So good to see you. Alexander Garcia. Hello, Alexander. I think you're new. I don't recognize your face. Before I started awakening, I suffered with a rare phobia of losing consciousness. It made it difficult to fall asleep without panicking every time I felt I was losing control. I jumped the gun and went straight to the hardcore Advaita teachings, hoping to eradicate this fear. I was hoping you could say something about this. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Thank you for bringing that to me, Alexander. And I think when you talk about hardcore Advaita teaching, I think you may be referring, there's a lot of teachers out there. There's nobody there. There's nothing to do. It is a denial of human nature rather than a subsuming of it in real transcendence. It's what I regard as an artificial transcendence. It's a trying to get out of and explain away human life rather than embrace it and subsume it into a higher position. This is the Mahayana approach, the Bodhisattva approach of Buddhism. And true Advaita, the true Advaita does not ignore. If something is the truth, it cannot, it has to explain everything, right? It has to explain everything. It can't just explain something away, right? So there's a fear of losing consciousness. Okay, let's just be with that fear of losing consciousness, right? What we really want to do is to not explain it away, but to transcend it, to go beyond the fear of losing consciousness. Through genuine Vedanta, you inquire into the nature of consciousness itself. And if I discover the nature of consciousness itself, I can't possibly lose it. How can I? It is what I am. It is not a possession I have. It's not an attribute of me. It's not something that goes away. It's what I am. How can I lose what I am? How can I become something else? In that idea that it is something that I have, and I'm going to go to this place where I don't exist, where there's nothing, in that space, which is a belief that isn't true, is where the phobia would exist, where that fear could possibly exist. The fact of the matter is, it happens every single night. Every single night, you fall first into dream sleep, and then eventually, at various parts of the night, you fall into completely dreamless sleep. We'd call that total unconsciousness. Right? And of course, that's what you were afraid of. You're going to lose control. That's what the real fear is about. Losing control and dying, ceasing to exist. And so this idea of every night going to this place of total emptiness, total dreamless. There's no activity whatsoever. There's no content. And yet you are still there. Fact is, you know you are still there, but you don't know it as a thought because there are no thoughts. It is pure existence, content free. And we have no sense of time there because there's no activity. You have to have content, things happening in sequence in order for there to be time. When the things happening in sequence stop, time stops. And therefore it is sense of time. I fall asleep. Happened to me yesterday. I was just kind of laying down. Didn't have a lot of energy yesterday. I laid down. Next thing I know, it's 2 hours later. I mean, really. So obviously slipped right into dreamless sleep, content-free sleep, and time stopped. Right? Relative, my actual experience, it stopped. Relative to a clock, which is an artificial thing over here. It's time appeared to be, but that's all conceptual, right? And the fact of the matter is, we always say, God, I slept really well. We invest a lot of money in great beds. I mean, you can't look at any social media platform without seeing some advertisement for mattresses, right? Why? Because that experience of contentless consciousness isn't unconsciousness at all. It's freedom. It is close to what awakening actually is. But awakening is the conscious awareness, but it is free of thought, even the thought of I. And that's what's frightening for people. How do I know I exist if I'm not thinking? Well, how do you know exist right now? How do you know you are? Is that a thought? Or is it simply a knowingness? So notice this is not the hardcore Advaita teaching. It recognizes that we can get to this position where we think that somehow I'm going to disappear, right? And the ego is terrified of that because the ego survives on thinking. The ego is a thought. No thought, no ego, right? How do I live without a thought? You don't need a thought to live. The trees do quite well, don't they? So do dogs, right? You don't need thoughts. Thought is a very useful adjunct, not a necessity. Right? And in fact, the problem is we've mistaken the thought of I for I. I, the true I, is not a thought. And this true self-knowledge is always there. And it will transcend even that dreamless, content-free sleep with still a sense of I am, without fear. So you cannot lose consciousness. The consciousness that it's talking about, that it's afraid of losing, is actually the sense of the ego losing control and its fear of, and the fear of death. And for the ego, the fear of death is I, the sense of I, the personal I does not exist. Well, guess what? It doesn't. It never did, and it never will. Just look at children in a state of pure bliss all the time, always happy, no sense of I. That comes later. That doesn't come online for a couple of years. In the beginning, pure, undifferentiated experience. They're happy. They're happy and expressive, and they let you know what they're feeling. If I'm wet, they'll let you know. Hungry, they'll let you know, right? It's pure self-expression. Right? So does that help, Alexander? Does that kind of bring you back? It's not what you learn from the hardcore Advaita teaching. It's not that it's wrong, right? It's just kind of trying to do an end run around the experience, the everyday human experience we all have, to try to explain away rather than truly transcend. So hopefully, please let me know. Please let me know. That's yeah, it's a very dear question to me, because I experience a lot with people coming from other kinds of teaching, everything from that kind of hardcore Advaita to law of attraction and the like. All sorts of different people coming, just kind of like none of it's really working. We have to embrace our humanness and thus transcend it. In Buddhism, they say the ordinary human being is the Buddha. The ultimate achievement is the complete embrace of the ordinary human being. Right? And in that embracing, the true non-duality appears. True Advaita appears. There isn't a transcendent state and the human state or divine, and they are one. Facebook user, I needed that. Good afternoon, enlightened friend. Good afternoon, love that. Meditate like your hair's on fire. Is that yeah, that's Mikey. Yeah, Mikey. Click the button so I could know who you are. I guess the rest of those are you too. Hello, Jacqueline. And, namaste to you as well. Is there a way to heal fear of rejection? I've suffered from traumas as in my childhood? Absolutely, there is. Absolutely, there is. The fear. Remember, the fear of rejection is an energetic pattern that's simply stuck in your nervous system. It's not natural to you, and it happened because you were rejected. You didn't make this. We don't make this stuff up. Your nervous system is not some kind of sadist, right? Trying to mess up your life, right? It simply takes on characteristics and patterns of behavior and belief systems as a result of the real stuff that happened. So the reason you have a fear of being rejected is because you were rejected. Right? Simple as that. You felt a sense of being rejected. And remember, on a very primitive level, if you are rejected by your tribe, you die. So it's not the fear of rejection is actually the fear of death, the fear I'm not going to survive. And as a result, you'll do anything to hide yourself, to stay away, to not make yourself visible. Fear of public speaking. All of that is part of that traumatic moment, right? And we all got subject to that because we were all rejected in one way or another. We were all not allowed to be fully ourselves. It happens to absolutely everybody. And because our need to survive is greater than our need to be our authentic self, right? We compromise, we sacrifice the qualities of our true self, send it to the basement, and present to the environment that which is not ourselves. And therefore, we are in constant state of fear that who we're not, that this ruse is going to get seen through, and I am going to be rejected. Right? The cure: discover this. Discover who you really are. Discover all those qualities that were sent to the basement, right? And you be the one who does not reject them. You don't reject yourself. Now, what this starts with is simply allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling when you feel it, without judgment or criticism. I call it the yoga of allowing. To simply start by being present with your own feelings. Recognize that the only reason you're doing it is because you have a deep love of yourself. That love is the opposite of rejection. It is the opposite of death. That kind of self-love. And I'm not talking a theoretical thing or some kind of emotional state. I love myself, right? With writing "I love me" on the body. Although it's fine to do, or Post-its on your mirror. Whenever you're willing to listen to yourself, to listen to your own feelings, when there's something going on in your body or in your emotions, and you don't try to push it away, that's love. That's earthy, gritty, real love. That's not the dainty love, right? That's fine china that you take it off for special occasions and the kids don't get to touch it. They eat off the plastic plates at the other table. This is real love. The love that accepts you as you are. And that's the only thing that heals any of this stuff, by the way, because it was the rejection of you as you are that created the traumatic material, the traumatic environment in the first place. The traumatic environment is what the whole energy said, it's not safe to be me. Soul disconnect takes place. I go down to the basement and a false version of me gets created to present it to the environment. That's the egoic mind. That's the false self. It all comes from there. What do? Turn back around. You now accept and embrace that which was rejected. And you got taught to reject it yourself, right? Which is what self-help is. I'm still rejecting it. I'm just going to make it better. I'm going to make me better now, right? It's still a form of self-rejection. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. It needs to be fixed. You need to be liberated. This is a path not of self-help, but of self-discovery. And when you discover yourself, you realize that there's nothing wrong. I am lovable. I am amazing. I am magnificent. I am the infinite beingness itself. I am Shiva. I am Vishnu. I am Brahma. I am Yahweh. I am all the gods and goddesses. They are all within me. They got sent to the basement. How's that for you, Jacqueline? Thank you so much for asking. Susanna, a little bit late. I'm spending time with my friend's 8-year-old daughter. Children are, after all, the closest thing to God, next to Satsang. Yes, when the children grow up and actually get to re-embrace their childhood, it's Satsang. Kakwenda, hello. If the word religion means to bind again, why do we as humans love to be bound? A lot of love from Uganda. Well, to bind to the truth is really what it's about. It has, religion, like everything else, has just been gotten reduced to codes of ethics and moral standards and cultural mandates, basically. And God has become the enforcer of rules, not love, but the enforcer of the rule. And you earn love by doing what God tells you to do, either by obeying the rules or accepting his brutal blood sacrifice or whatever your particular version of it is. But we humans love to be bound to love, don't we? We love to be bound. We love to be bound to each other. Now, if you're talking about bound as in bondage, right? I'm not free to be me. That's simply the survival mechanism of the very tribal, very primal thing that I need my tribe to survive. We have to outgrow that. For the most part, culture has not. That's where our world still is, very much first chakra tribal kind of thing. We need to outgrow that into our natural drive towards freedom and self-expression and authenticity, being authentically myself. And that means being bound to freedom. I'm binding myself to a higher place now, a higher beingness, a higher authority. I am transcending the lower. But I mean, yoga means union, right? It literally means to yoke to, right? Right? To yoke to something, to be bound with. A sangha means to be in communion with this. And we're talking about the truth, union with the truth. So it's a yoking, right? But it's not a binding yoke. It's when you're yoking with the truth, you're yoked to freedom itself, and you are transcending all bondage until you see that this binding and this freedom, this are one, because it's what you are, right? When it still feels like two, there's a yoga needed, right? There's a sangha needed. There is a yoking needed, a religion needed, a reunion needed. But when they are seen to be one, and you have transcended both freedom and bondage in infinite being, well, then all of it can fall away. In the meantime, we need to be in the place of practicing the yogas of allowing, the yogas of being, the transcendent yogas of identification with the true self. And until eventually the two-ness simply disappears, and so does the practice, so does religion, so does the yoga, so does the binding. So all of it disappears into the prajna paramita. You have simply gone altogether beyond parasamgate. Thank you, Kakwenda. I hope that answers it. Speeding up a little bit because I don't know how many are in the queue here, and time is growing short. Hey, GP, today I heard our true selves are akin to a nurturing parent lovingly attending to a psychotic mental patient or small self. Seems fit. Mark, yes. Yes, a very loving parent of a very messed up kid. The perfect parenting. Okay? But the good news is the messed up kid isn't real. It's an aberration. It's a momentary distortion. The natural impulses, stymied and distorted in an unnatural container, took on just very weird patterns. And the truth of being is the ultimate self. It is the truth of your being. So it's not something separate from you, looking down, but it works. Yeah. We're all psychotic mental patients. We're all bozos on this bus, and many of you may actually know what that is a reference from. Faith, my heart was crying while listening to you and feeling the healing energy conveying these words. I feel I'm powerless to take any step. Pray for me, Baba GP. I love you and rely on your love. I am, Faith. I am. And you cannot help but realize your ultimate freedom. And it cannot be stopped. Nothing can stop God, true love. And it will appear and take concrete form at some point. It will. It has to. Yeah, it is simply the way it is. Stan Knights. Hi, G. Love what you're doing. Thank you. I have a narrative that my practice has to keep deepening. When the feeling of deepening goes, I worry if I'm progressing. I can often get to a deep place after practicing a few days, but often fail to remain there because it starts to feel normal. What's the core aspect of practice that I should focus on to continue growing regardless of this feeling? Beautiful. Beautiful. The core aspect of the practice is to focus on the one who is looking, the one who appears to be doing the practice. Notice there's a feeling of it deepening. There's a practice taking place. There's a feeling of it deepening. There's a sense of getting to a very deep place, and then the feeling shifts. The mistake practitioners make is that somehow awakening is a state you arrive at and it remains stable. That's been a mistake made by yogis and siddhus for millennia. Right? This samadhi that's unchanging. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist. Right? So you can stop pursuing it. Right? It is impossible to make any experience permanent. The nature of an experience is it is shifting. Right? And if it doesn't shift, you notice and go, well, what is this? Right? It's got to continue to deepen, as you said. In other words, there has to be an increasing peak experience, right? And this is what many people seek as the spiritual path. Notice that is an experience. And of course, any experience, it's going to fluctuate. One day I'm going to feel like I'm like the Red Sea is parting. The next day I can barely tread water, right? What effect does that have on the one who's aware of it? Zero. The witnessing itself, the consciousness that is cognizing both the depth and then the boredom and then the feeling of not being deep or the form of not having it, that which is cognizing it hasn't changed, has it? That's you. Recognizing that as yourself is the awakening. When the I goes there, instead of looking for some state, right, that is away. Oh, I've been here the whole damn time. It's always been me. I'm always the one that's been seeing it. I just thought there was some particular condition that was supposed to be established. And once that was established, now I am awake. You've always been awake. That's all there's ever been. It's the realization the awakeness has always been there. It has been what has been witnessing everything, including all the thoughts that were trying to seek a peak experience. Those two were just thoughts being witnessed. That's the real you. Right? So your practice doesn't need to continue to deepen. Just turn here. You're not practicing to become a Buddha. You are the Buddha, sitting as the Buddha, practicing being the Buddha. Right? Which seems kind of strange, but I'm not really. Musicians, amazing, accomplished musicians, practice, don't they? They call practicing medicine, right? It's not, okay, I'm not practicing anymore. It is an ongoing kind of thing. It's a forever development. So there's never a point, I am the Buddha, right? As if it was a thing. Do not be a wood or stone Buddha. The Buddha is life itself. Right? And so this is the experience you're having in this moment. Notice what is having that experience. And that what is having the experience is not an experience. It doesn't shift. It doesn't change. It's where you can't detect it, right? Because it doesn't move. We only can see, we can only register change, can't we? So that which is changeless cannot appear on the radar. You can only be it. You can't even know yourself. This isn't self-knowledge in the sense that, that's Eureka, that's what I am. You can't know yourself. No thought can capture you. It is a surrender to that. That's the true Buddha. That's the true awakening. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for bringing that to me, Stan. Brooke, hello, Brooke. I see a lot of new people here, I think, today. What is the body made of? Is DNA just another illusion, or does DNA really come from our parents? Okay, since you put it in those terms, and this is satsang, it is an illusion. It's all an illusion. Now, when I say illusion, I don't mean like a hallucination, right? What I mean is that the experience we have is always consciousness, right? Now, it's self-evident that without consciousness, I have no experience. Without consciousness, I have no body. There is no body here without consciousness. Now, there's a belief that the body exists independently of it, or that the body, through some kind of functioning, creates consciousness. Right? There's many, even of the strict material scientists, who go, something's not quite right with that. That this cognizing, self-aware entity is the result of some kind of structural interaction of molecules and atoms and the like. Something just doesn't feel right about that. And that's because it isn't. It's not the case. And there are many neurologists and the like who've gone, no, it's not there. Consciousness is not in or of the body. It is something else altogether. They're rare still, and a lot of them don't speak up because they don't want to lose their grants. And so when we see the body as herself, I say, I am the body. And I start describing the body. And I can just get into it and the body and the arm and the structure and all these things and DNA and lymph, or, and that's in the scientific world, or you get meridians and chakras and all these other stuff, which is a different way of trying to explain the same phenomena. All of it's an illusion. All of it is a projection. What are you actually experiencing? Put all your thoughts aside, and what do you experience? You experience form. That's it. You experience, and even using the word form is a reduction of it. It's actually a conceptualization of it. And concepts then project themselves onto what is in fact your direct experience and create an imaginary world. That's the illusion, right? I use the example of the mirage in the desert. It's not that the desert isn't there. There's a desert and there's heat and there's the sun and I'm thirsty and I'm sweating and there's sand and there's heat rising off the sand and making distortions in the air. That's all there. The mirage isn't. That's a projection of the mind, right? The snake and the rope. So all of your experience, right? Everything you experience, person, place, thing, the fact of experiencing it is undeniable. What you are experiencing is the illusion. When you see your sum total, all of your experience, all of it, right? Enlightenment doesn't take any of this away, right? All of a sudden you don't get hungry anymore, or it doesn't rain, right? It's all there, right? But you don't see it as separate from yourself anymore. It is all the one functioning of consciousness, one beingness. Beingness in its essence is myself perceiving it. And in its dynamic aspect is what is being perceived, but they are one. They're all the same. So when I project onto it a world, I identify with the body, a particular set of experiences I'm having, and I identify with that, and now I think of myself as this. I create an other. I now project on everything else existence, and I call it the world, a concept that I've projected on my experience, and I call it the world. That is samsara. When I recognize that what I'm experiencing is not a world, the concept of world goes away, and it is simply consciousness modulating itself, and I am that consciousness, that is nirvana. The shift in perception, nothing else changes. You sit in this world. And so when we dig things in, and people like to talk about the amygdala and the RAS and all these kinds of stuff. It's actually an attempt to liberate oneself from the oppressive limitations of identification with the body, but it is a distortion of spirituality. Trying to make the body immortal, or I can awaken all of my 256 strands or 5,000 strands of DNA, and that kind of all sorts of these different practices. DNA doesn't exist. It's a concept projected upon experience. Right? You don't need to be liberated from it. You don't need to change it. It doesn't control anything. You are free, completely and totally free. Only our own beliefs bind us. Now, there may be many people who will be very critical of what I just said. I may hear about it from some people, right? But I just follow through on the essential insight that is the awakening, and that is, it is all consciousness. There is nothing but myself, and that self is not a person, but it is the one beingness of all. That's who I am. That who is you are. It's the only I that there is. There is only the one infinite consciousness. All is that. All is Brahman. All is God. Thank you, Brooke. Beautiful. All right. How many things have I got down here? How far can I get? Mary, once I hear your voice, I come to a calm place. It's funny. It took me a long time to be able to listen to my own. I don't listen to my own meditations. It's funny. Diane, as a member of a 12-step fellowship, I've accepted the principle of defects of character that should be prayed away as they stand in the way of God's will. This conflicts with what I am now learning. Yes, and I don't want to dismiss that. 12-step has helped many, many, many people, but it can only go so far. There's a point at which the identification as something frail, right, has to leave. At first, yes, it's a devotion to a higher self, and it empowers. It makes us realize that stuck in our conditioned patterns, it's incredibly difficult to extricate yourself from them. Once you understand, though, that they are conditioned patterns and not myself, the guilt can fall away, the recrimination. I don't have to label myself as an addict or an alcoholic or anything like that. That can all. At the beginning, I think it's extremely important that you do. It's a humble recognition as Jesus. Okay, this is where I actually am. If it stays there, yes, it's going to start getting in the way of the deeper unfolding of the original innocence, the purity. Because in fact, it's not you, right? You're not an alcoholic or an addict or whatever the thing happens to be, codependent, whatever it happens, whatever 12-step group it is. That's not, you aren't that innately. It is simply the way the nervous system got programmed. Understanding that, some distance begins to happen. And I realize that I have always been innocent. None of this is my fault. It's the way it was conditioned, and it was inevitable. This is going to happen. That's my parents. It happened to them and happened to their parents. There's not even anybody to blame. And that wisdom provides a different level of freedom, a complete freedom from identification, even with the problem, even as it dissipates from the system. So I don't want to diminish any of these things. As a matter of fact, a lot of people are suffering from addictions. They'll often have to get help. Have to. You need that support. And in the 12-step program, that's where it starts. Right? But don't let it stop there. I've seen people that end up getting totally addicted. They belong to like 18 different 12-step groups. Right? So now that's become their new thing, because they really haven't come to terms with all addictions arise from that initial trauma, the initial self-rejection, that heart that isn't being nourished. An addiction is just simply scratching your nose when your butt itches. It's the right action. It's the wrong place, right? And it becomes kind of a self-fulfilling thing that eventually gets so tightly wound, it becomes very difficult to stop, but not impossible. But it never, ever, ever touches who you are. Your original innocence is there. That was my experience at 19 years old. It saved my life. That was shown to me. The original innocence, no matter how messed up and coated in gunk it was never actually touched. It remains. The real you is still there. And that's why eventually you outgrow these lesser but useful systems and emerge into the truth of your being, which transcends all of it and brings you to the total liberation. Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Faith. Encouraging Justine, yay. Wonderful. There's John. Hello, John. Pat Moss, hello to you. Jay, just got your Allow It series. Great. Fantastic. Amy, so good to have you here. Tuning in from Vancouver. Lydia, yay. Wonderful. So good to see you. So glad for this beautiful community. Thanks. Oh, Lydia. Lydia is one of my Tappist monks. She went through the EFT training that I do. When shopping for flowers. Very good. I don't have any flowers behind me today, just some plants. Yeah, just my normal stuff. Oh, what did I do? Comments. Okay, I hit the wrong button here. Oh, there we go. Awesome, says Michael. Good. I feel that too, Mary. Thank you, Alexander, for the question about sleep. I understand this all so well. Jay, thank you, G, for another good satsang. Tried so hard for a really long time for self-realization. Then I came across you, and my entire perception about it changed and discovered who I really am before the body died. Oh, so good for me to hear that. Yes. Oh, we can spend our lives, to the carrot of self-realization. You are the self. Thanks for this, G. Extremely hard. Sorry for the dark question. Not at all. I'm kind of used to them. Just been a very difficult time at the moment for me. I know, man. I know what it's like. I know what it's like. I haven't lived a moniker. I'm not a monk. I've had deep relationships and romantic relationships. And yes, heartbreak is universal. David Lane, thank you, GP, Satsang family, creating this healing space where the deepest concerns and questions can be shared in a loving and non-judgmental place, answered with profound wisdom. Thank you. I would blush to even say thank you if I thought it was coming from a personal me, right? GP doesn't exist, folks. It's a projection of the mind. Right? There's nobody here. There's the wisdom, the infinite intelligence, which is all of us, is simply speaking through this body. It's moving the lips, it's moving the larynx, it's stimulating all the things that have to take place. It's not there's somebody here listening and then repeating what has been heard. There's no I here at all. It doesn't exist. Hello, Isabel. So good to see you, Isabel. Have you heard about Muji? It could be a beautiful song. Have I heard of him? Yeah, I spent a month with him. He is officially my guru, my master. Unless you're talking some news that I haven't heard. Let me scroll down. Okay, good. Good. It's like, did I heard about Muji? It's like, yes, I know Muji. I know Muji quite well. What I teach comes from that lineage, Ramana to Papaji to Muji to me. But I also have exposure to Zen and Nisargadatta, a bunch of things. Anyway, thank you for Sufi for sharing another profound satsang. Welcome. I love that the truth of being is within self. Love your simplicity on explaining the meaning of life. Oh, you're welcome. Brooke, I did get your answer. Yeah, sometimes it takes me a while to get down the list. There are very many questions that come in. I try to go as long as I can. Oh, good. Faith, thanks, my Sheik, for your time, your love, and your wisdom. You're welcome, Faith. Love you. Tracy Lees, first time viewer from South Glastonbury, Connecticut. Oh, hello, Tracy. Wonderful. Wonderful. Welcome. Welcome. I hope you're being touched by it. Yeah. Deeply. Yeah. The scales are falling away from the eyes, and quickly, what is Swan Song used to always end his letters? Yes. Quickly realize the self, become enlightened, and save all beings from suffering. Lydia, sometimes I get almost afraid of the ego, like making stories about everything and seeing myself as a certain person instead of just being. Recognizing the moments are so beautiful when I forget myself, forget my ego. I can imagine that the best way to not be afraid of the ego is to not make a story about it. Do you think maybe any more thoughts about it? Thank you, GP. The best way? Realize it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It's a thought. When I say I'm afraid of the ego, look what you've done. You've taken a thought, ego, which is really just a collection of thoughts. It's a word. It's a thought to represent a bunch of other thoughts, right? All the thoughts about I, personal I. Now you've turned it into a thing that is fighting you. Now, is there a thing fighting you? Or did you just basically create your own God and bow down and worship it? Oh, please go away. Please don't hurt me. Right? No, there is no ego. You decided there is, that it's a problem. And because the power of the self, you are now experiencing it as a problem and as if it was an entity. Folks, there's nothing there. There's nobody there. You're trying to strangle a puppet. You're having an argument with Bugs Bunny. There's nobody there. There is no ego. It is a collection of thoughts. It is a functioning. It is a repetitive pattern of thinking, not a thing. And so, yes, there'll be a tendency for that thinking to go on. But when I think that thinking, that pattern of thought is a problem, right? I've created a problem where there isn't one. I've just invented it. You're already free. It doesn't exist. Right? The ego is nothing. Don't make a story about it. It's nothing but a story. The ego is a story. It's a word that designates something. That's it. There's nothing there. Same with mind. We use the word like wind, right? Is there a wind? We draw pictures of clouds with big puffy cheeks, as if there's something blowing. The wind is blowing. It's just the nature of language creates subjects and objects. There's no wind. There's only the blowing. There's no ego. There's only thinking about I. Boom. It disappears. Show it to me. Show me your ego. I'll gladly help you dispense with it. Just show it to me. There. I've dispensed with it for you. I love you, Lydia. Hello on Sunday, Melissa. Hello, Melissa. Let's see. South Carolina. Welcome. Welcome. I do believe there's a lot of new people here today. Wonderful. You're in South Florida, Isabel. Yes, my whole life searching for who I am. Finally realizing is all that you've always been that. Yes, the one searching is you. So now you can call off the search. You found you. Welcome home. South Florida. I lived for 13 years in Miami Beach. Yes. Fun, beautiful condo overlooking the ocean. Don't have that anymore. One of the many things I lost at a very dramatic time in my life. Yeah. Kamal, hello from Pakistan. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful to have you. Fantastic. Patrick Friedberg, you're my mentor. Big love from Germany. Ah, happy to be that for you, Patrick. In Germany. Oh, awesome. Just found him recently and he lives in Portugal and they have retreats there. Yes, they do. And usually once a year he goes to Rishikesh, India. That's where I spent time with him. I spent a month there with him in India. And yes, I can't recommend Muji enough. How can I not? He is my master. I asked him specifically face to face, will you be my master? He accepted, of course. Josie Pond, first time. Oh, thank you, Josie. Yay. Welcome everyone. I'm watching everything they have on internet from Muji. Absolutely divine. No wonder you are so special as you explain. Love you, love you, love you. Love you too. Yes, I am my teacher's teaching. You know, teaching is a life, right? It is a life that expresses the master's teaching, not words or concepts. It's the life. It's the lived truth. Thank you. I get it. Oh, beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you, Diane. My ego looks like Barney. That's good. That's good. Penny refers to it as her dog. Oh, the dog's out. It's very good. At one time, I depicted it as kind of this curmudgeon. It was kind of like this Russian bureaucrat sitting in this office, you know, with no furniture at a table, you know, just with a stamp going, no, no, bald, pudgy. Beautiful. It looks like Barney. Hello from Michigan. Hello, Terry. Oh, welcome, welcome, welcome. AGP. Hello, Ido. Oh, wow. Your answer made me so laugh and it helped me instantly. Loved you. Love you. It's funny, isn't it? When you go, oh my God, I'm strangling a puppet. Laugh too so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Look at this. I made it through the list. I made it through all. Wonderful, wonderful. So, well, that's it for this week. Yay, yay. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for devoting yourself to this precious work. And please do stop by my site, gpwalsh.com /patron and check out the patron system program I have. It's very inexpensive. There's a lot of content. You can even sign up for 15 days or 7-day free trial and then cancel if you don't like it. Cancel anytime you like. And I will be constantly refreshing, including many of you have seen, I've taken these satsangs and I've divided them up a question at a time. So, you know, you'll get a video, it's like 3 minutes or maybe 12 minutes rather than all 12 organized by subject. And I'll be doing that and putting those on the site. And I got to get help doing that because it's extremely time consuming for me. Because I do all my own editing, I do my own web work. I've tried to keep everything down to an absolute minimum so that I can keep everything, you know, free and low cost, but I just can't keep it up anymore. So I need your help, folks. I love you all. I love you all so much. Thank you for being here. And remember, you alone are. You are the self. You hold all the cards. You are in the position of authority, even though your mind keeps telling you you're not. You already are the self. Till next time, all. Love you. Namaste.